This is episode 117 part 2. Field Island's terrain was extremely dry with enormous rocks everywhere, so how could a big fish appear? Shaha was extremely shocked. This large fish brandished its tail, once again releasing lightning radiance. It rushed over with great power. There were lightning symbols all around its body that erupted here. It really is strange. How did it grow up? There's no water here at all. Shaha took action. His palms shone. A swan ni imprint appeared, absorbing all of the lightning. Then, it attacked towards the fish. Suddenly, all of the fine hairs on his body shone. He looked into the distance, and saw that multiple pairs of scarlet eyes were opening one after another. They were quickly rushing over. School of fish. Shaha's eyes widened. Then, he felt as if things weren't going well. The distance looked like a sky full of stars. Countless eyes appeared, converging on this direction. At this moment, he couldn't help but retreat. There were just too many of these fish to the point where it was a bit terrifying. They hit the sky and covered the earth, bringing with them tremendous amounts of lightning. Thunderous sounds rang incessantly. Through the light produced by the electricity, he could see thousands and tens of thousands of silver vicious fish. They ranged from several meters to several tens of meters. Together, the amount of divine force they exerted was astonishing. Before leaving, Shaha also issued an attack, sweeping out the stalk of grass sword intent to kill several enormous fish as a warning. And the next moment, Shaha increased his speed. As soon as he left, the sea of lightning blasted the spot he was originally standing in, making that area as bright as day. Shaha fled into the distance. There was no need to fight, because there were too many fishes, so there was no way he could kill all of them. In addition, there were even divine-grade experts in the rear, making it quite dangerous. The dense school of fish pursued him, not willing to give up. Only after traveling more than 100 li did they give up, because they couldn't see traces of Shaha anymore. It really is a strange place. Shaha headed deeper and deeper, feeling like Field Island was scary. From time to time, blinding light would streak across the air, as if there were cracks in the void. It was enough to threaten supreme experts. The further in he moved, the thicker the electromagnetic mists became. It was extremely difficult for normal people to endure. Along the way, he saw many corpses, some that hadn't died too long ago. It was clear that quite a few people had fallen among the ones that came earlier. Several days later, he found a lighthouse. It was especially bright in the dusky mist, like a divine flame that was jumping. It made him a bit hesitant. He carefully approached it. He saw a bone pagoda that radiated gentle light. This was a formation set up by someone. A few cultivators were seated here, taking in and sending out foundational energy to recover from their injuries. Shaha made sure that this wasn't some type of trap, and then he got closer. There were several dozen people recovering here. Some people opened their eyes, but after seeing him, they closed their eyes again. There were a few others that were chatting in a soft voice, discussing their benefits in the dangerous area. Shaha open-mindedly asked for guidance, asking what was going on with this bone pagoda. There were many things he didn't understand. The dangerous region is extremely dangerous. This is a bone pagoda left behind by a few experts in the past when they isolated themselves here. It became a place of shelter for those that came after. Someone explained. This is a bounty from Immortal Mountain. In the past, they even caught this person before, but later on, he was successfully rescued. Someone said. I heard that this single-armed person came from the lower realm. At first, he was sent here as a prisoner, but later on, his descendants also entered the higher realms, which caused Immortal Mountain's attitude to quickly change. I know, there was that Shaziling person who went crazy, barging into this place. Chin clan was changed because of him, quickly searching for signs of the single-armed person to rescue him. Rumor has it that this Shaziling has a formidable son that successfully wielded 2 immortal bones, shaking the higher realms. That is why Immortal Mountain's attitude changed so quickly. Lower your voice, these things cannot be randomly said. Do not mention the immortal bones matters. There are quite a few people that died because of this. Chin clan's youth is truly going to defy the heavens. That Chin Hao will definitely rise up. The ones in this world that can be his opponent aren't many. Then, these people began to chat about their rewards. Once slaughtered, the creatures in the electromagnetic mist had thunderstones inside of them. They were an extremely rare and precious material. Several days later, Shaha almost encountered danger. He saw a great python that coiled around several dozen mountain peaks without moving. It was like a mountain ridge. When a few explorers ignorantly walked past, it suddenly erupted with power, turning these supreme experts into ashes. This was definitely a divine-level expert that was unusually vicious. Shaha personally saw this scene. If not for his divine senses being powerful enough, if he walked forward before them, he would have most likely been in danger. He made a detour around this place. 8 days later, he experienced many dangers. He entered the depths of the dangerous land. The further in he went, the more exuberant the lightning natural laws. It was as if this entire sky and earth were surrounded by them. Shaha was shaken. This place was definitely a place most suitable for comprehending the profound mysteries of lightning. He didn't want to waste any time, and wanted to reach the depths, so that he could research and eat that stalk of grass. The final lighthouse vanished as well, proving that he had entered the most dangerous region. The great fog was extremely thick. Electricity would streak across the air from time to time, sinister-looking, brilliant, and dangerous. That light could immediately turn an enormous mountain into ashes. This river, Shaha noticed a terrifying thing. There were a few corpses floating in the river. Even though they had died many years ago, they still didn't rot. They were divine-level experts. Soon after, he saw a few creatures in front of him. There were humans, but also other powerful races. They were all explorers. He walked up to chat with them. What kind of origin does this river have? This river is quite strange. Someone said that it was produced from the immortal Tao lightning, and there are others that say that the blood of the demonic sovereign flows through it. After all these years, it still hasn't dried up. Where does it flow to? Shaha asked. Rumor has it that the end of it is an immortal tomb, and that this great river completely flows into the tomb, a woman said. This river was extremely terrifying. Apart from the terrifying lightning radiance, there was also a mysterious curse power that was proportionate to that of the cultivator that approached it. Those corpses inside the river were deities. Shaha asked. He was deeply shocked, seeing more than one or two of them along the way. Not only deities, there are even heavenly deities among them. The number of them that died during the ancient era isn't small. In the end, all of the corpses dropped into this river, someone replied. Shaha followed them, because if he traveled alone, he wouldn't know anything about this place. 2 days later, they followed this heavenly stream to an ancient city. It was situated right beside this river. In reality, they said it was a city, but it was better to call it ruins. All of the buildings had practically collapsed, and there was only a city wall that was still standing outside. Apart from this, there was a monument that was shining at the center of the ruins. It was also located in the ancient city's plaza. It was unexpectedly 3,000 jong tall and majestic. It was shining with brilliance. It is rumored that this structure represented the 3,000 provinces, with each jong equivalent to one province. There were unexpectedly many people surrounding this place. They were all discussing among themselves, and a few people were quite excited. What is the purpose of this monument? Shaha didn't understand and asked others for guidance. This structure was personally established endless years ago, by the greatest demonic sovereign himself. It could examine an individual's strength, talent, potential, and other factors. Look, there is light flickering at the very top in a dazzling manner. Quite a few world-shaking names were left behind there. A middle-aged man said. Shaha was shocked. Who is Qin Changsheng? After carefully looking it over, he saw that the highest part of this monument was divided into several regions. There were a few names within one region that was especially brilliant. All of you, look, there are a few other ancient era giants' names. Their names have shaken the past and present. Some of them are still alive even now. Look how high they are ranked. Everyone commented excitedly. Shaha was inwardly shaken. He saw a familiar name, Qin Hao. It was even more brilliant than immortal heavenly deity Qin Changsheng's name. It was as brilliant as a blazing sun. Qin clan is truly formidable. After countless years have passed, they produced this Qin Hao who exceeds immortal heavenly deity. Many people sighed in praise. Those that can leave behind a brilliant imprint will immediately shake the world. Someone spoke, deeply moved. Can anyone test themselves here? There won't be any dangers, right? A young lady asked, a bit bashful. There was an elder beside her. She was clearly a disciple from a great sect that came here to train, so there was someone protecting her. There won't be any dangers. Anyone can test their strength, talent, potential, and other factors, replied an old woman. Shaha rubbed his chin. He saw many people's name imprints. There were a few giants that had survived since the ancient times until now, shaking the higher realms with their power. He was also a bit interested, wishing to give it a try. A few youngsters' spirits were raised, eager to give this a try. They all wanted to leave their names on the monument and see how high they themselves would rank. They wanted to know whether dazzling radiance would be released. Let me try first. A youngster walked up. The bottom of his feet shone, leaving behind symbols one after another on the ground surface. It was sparkling and resplendent, and then his entire body ignited with radiance. He was going to test his own strength, so he used his greatest methods, erupting with all of his power to attack the stone monument. A rain of light scattered down, as if flower petals were dancing about. His entire being released the most powerful strike, and with thunderous noise, it smashed onto the 3,000 jong tall monument. A great noise rang through the air. How is it? How high did I rank? The youth stepped backwards, a hopeful look on his face as he searched for his own name. However, after a long time had passed, nothing appeared, leaving him quite stunned. I don't see anything. The others also shook their heads. These people's divine senses were powerful, so if they carefully searched, they naturally wouldn't miss anything. They swept their eyes over the densely packed names, but they couldn't see any traces. Has this monument existed for too long, and some kind of problem happened? Otherwise, how can my name not be here? The youth asked, feeling a bit disappointed. Let me give it a try. A purple-haired youngster walked up. He wasn't of the human race. There was a layer of golden armor around his body that was shaped like a human, but had 8 arms. He was extremely self-confident. The monument was divided into 3 regions, testing strength, talent, and potential. He chose the strength area. His entire body shone, and then with a rumbling sound, he struck the monument. Everyone backed up. They could feel the tremendous power and intimidating pulsing of symbols. It was much more formidable than that of many of the people here. This was a formidable expert. However, when that strike ended, he took a step backwards, but no movement appeared on the monument. The last name continued to remain carved there without any changes. This, everyone was quite shocked. Not even the strike of a pure-blooded creature's strength could squeeze out the last person's name. How terrifying was this? Is it because our cultivation levels are still low, so our ranking isn't as high when we test here? Someone asked in a low voice. What kind of individual is the demonic sovereign? He transcended all shackles of heaven and earth, guiding down lightning tribulation. Rumor has it that he has killed undying existences. His methods are hard to understand. An elder shook his head, telling everyone that this monument considered the tester's age, cultivation realm, and other factors before making a final ranking. Let me test my talents a bit, said a youth. He saw that the 2 people before him tested strength, and ended up like this, so he immediately didn't have confidence there anymore. He wanted to test his talents. However, he was left disappointed. He couldn't leave a name behind. The youth stood there as a listless manner. He was known as a genius back in his sect and became the direct line of descent inheritor. In the future, he would grasp an inheritance, yet he was nothing here. Then, many others walked up, but they all received a psychological blow. They all thought that they were formidable geniuses, but their tests all ended dejectedly. The young lady was pleasantly surprised. Her fingers trembled slightly, as she wrote down the 2 words Qingyu. Then, the multicolored light faded, carving it into the enormous monument. She is actually Qingyu, Flood Dragon Race's well-known genius young lady. Her name has shaken all of 5 Elements province, someone everyone has heard of. Everyone became a bit speechless. Even this type of young lady whose reputation shook a province could only barely leave her name in this place. Her ranking wasn't that high. As a result, everyone completely gave up. A genius that was at the forefront of a province only had this kind of result. When everyone looked at the monument again, they all revealed looks of admiration. This was simply an unreachable height. The ancient geniuses of the 10 provinces that visited here were truly brilliant, dazzling to the point where people felt an urge to worship them. Immortal Mountain is truly formidable. They actually produced such a monster, one with natural talents ranked number 1 since ancient times. Everyone said softly. They all vented out their bitter feelings. When they first saw this monument, they didn't think much of it, but now, they all felt a wave of pressure weighing down on their chests, as if they were faced against an undying legend. Qin Hao's ranking in talent was higher than immortal heavenly deity Qin Changxing, ranked number 1 alongside 2 other individuals. The names of the 2 others were unfamiliar, all ancient people that had not been talked about in the later world. Legends had it that they were pseudonyms. They might have came from heavenly country, immortal palace, or places like that. Formidable, the Qin clan is definitely going to achieve greatness. No one can stop him. He even surpassed Qin Changxing. In the future, no one can predict what kind of realm he will reach, the green-haired old woman said. This is someone extremely lucky. He will definitely become a world-shaking forbidden existence, an elder added. Brother, why don't you give it a try? Someone urged Shaha, right? Don't be embarrassed. The nearby people said. They all tested themselves already, but only the flood dragon race's Qing Yu could leave her name here. It's all right. I shouldn't go up and embarrass myself. Shaha smiled and shook his head. With so many people watching, he didn't want to attract too much attention. He believed that he could leave his name up there. This was his confidence. Coward, don't even have the courage to do this. A young lady said with disdain. Shaha's expression remained calm, not minding this provocation. Youngster, you are too lacking in confidence. Regardless of whether you succeed or not, it is still an experience. What harm is there in just trying it out? An elder said while holding his beard, this is also a type of self-knowledge. It is better to lose face than to not participate. Someone sneered. Everyone shook their head, no longer paying attention to him. The others had pretty much already completely tested themselves. In the end, the monument remained calm. However, those with sharp eyes noticed that the Dao Tai, an ancient Golden Luan race's 2 geniuses' names had already been carved here. They came here a long time ago. How powerful. These 2's rankings aren't that low either. Finally, the people dispersed, following the brilliant heavenly river back in search of great natural luck. They wanted to see if they could find the immortal tomb. After a long time had passed, this place became peaceful. Apart from Shaha, everyone else had left. Shaha walked around this monument and used his hand to tap it. A metallic sound was produced, one that was quite sharp and clear. It was sturdy and undying. He didn't want to test talent or potential, because that required allowing the monument's symbols into his body. This was full of unknown factors. He wasn't willing to be pried into by the monument. I even lost my supreme being bone twice, so there's no point in testing those things. Shaha said to himself. He stood in front of the heavenly monument. Finally, he cleared his mind, and then his body began to shine. With a low roar, he exerted force. With a hong sound, he struck the divine monument. Brilliant divine multicolored light rushed into the sky. The ancient monument resonated, scattering down great Dao flowers one after another. Then, immortal light shone brilliantly, drowning out this place. Shaha took to the sky to gently carve a name. What happened? Several hundred li outwards, many people turned around, feeling greatly shocked. An irregular scene was happening at that monument. There seemed to be a person seated on top. Let's go back and take a look. There were immediately a few people who came back. They were completely shocked. Heavens. This is heaven-defying. Who is that? There is someone like this who emerged. They will definitely shake the world. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.